All right, UPSC champions, let's jump right back into those crucial current affairs, the ones you need to ace that exam. We're talking January 19th, 2025, and this is part 2.
So if you missed the first half, no worries, because catch up later.
Exactly. And for all you newcomers,
Don't forget that subscribe button.
you won't want to miss our daily deep dives. Okay, let's pick up where we left off. Remember all that talk about anti-corruption efforts in India?
Well, guess what?
Turns out the Lokpal, that's India's top watchdog.
Just celebrated its first Foundation Day.
Crazy, right?
It's true.
So for those who need a little refresher,
Yeah.
what exactly is this Lokpal? And
Right.
what does it do?
Think of it as like the big boss when it comes to investigating corruption complaints. It's for public officials.
Oh,
Even the prime minister falls under its watch.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, but there are certain safeguards, of course.
Right.
The Lokpal can initiate investigations, recommend prosecution, even set up its own special wing for prosecution.
So it's a pretty big deal then.
Oh, yeah.
But, this is where things get kind of interesting.
Okay.
Maybe a little concerning too. The Lokpal has rejected almost 90%.
90%. Can you believe that?
I know, of the complaints it received in the past 5 years.
It's a lot.
So what's going on there?
Well, the main reason is, complaints aren't formatted correctly. It seems the process is very specific.
Ah,
Any little deviation can lead to rejection.
really?
Yeah, and this raises some questions,
You think what?
is this whole process too complex for the average person? And how can we make it easier, more user-friendly, especially for those brave whistleblowers?
Right. Especially for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something to think about, especially for you all preparing for the UPSC.
Absolutely.
All right, let's switch gears a bit from fighting corruption to boosting connectivity.
All right.
We've got some exciting new initiatives to talk about.
Okay.
The National Broadband Mission 2.0,
And
the Sanchar Saathi mobile app.
these are big ones.
Definitely game changers.
Yeah,
man.
they are. They're all about making telecom more accessible and secure.
Across India.
Across India,
I mean, the National Broadband Mission,
NBM 2.0.
yeah, NBM 2.0 has some seriously ambitious goals.
Oh, for sure.
We're talking connecting villages with optical fiber,
Yes.
bringing broadband to schools and healthcare centers,
Mm-hmm.
and even paving the way for 5G.
And hold on, there's more.
What?
Even 6G networks.
Whoa.
Coming.
6G.
Yeah.
That sounds like something from, like, a sci-fi movie or something.
I know, right?
But seriously, what kind of impact could all this have on everyday life,
Well, just imagine.
especially those rural areas?
A student in a remote village
Yeah.
accessing the same online education resources as someone in a major city.
Right.
Or a doctor in a bustling hospital, consulting with patients hundreds of miles away using telemedicine.
So we're talking serious potential here.
Absolutely we are. NBM 2.0 could completely revolutionize education,
Oh.
healthcare, and economic opportunities, especially in rural India.
Okay, now that's something worth getting excited about.
Right.
It really aligns with, the government's big push for digital India.
It does.
Speaking of connections, let's move on to a pretty significant diplomatic milestone.
Okay.
India and Singapore.
60 years.
Yeah, they're celebrating 60 years of what they call a comprehensive strategic partnership.
That's right. It means cooperation in a whole bunch of areas.
Like what?
Trade, defense, culture, even education.
It's a pretty big deal on that international relations front, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
And here's a fun fact for you. Did you know Tamil is one of Singapore's official languages?
I did. It's pretty cool.
I bet that comes in handy during those diplomatic exchanges.
I'm sure it does. It really highlights the strong historical and cultural ties between the two nations.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the large Indian diaspora in Singapore.
Right.
They play a vital role in strengthening those people-to-people connections.
Absolutely. All right, so we've covered anti-corruption efforts,
Yes.
digital connectivity,
Uh-huh.
and even a bit of international diplomacy.
What's next?
Now let's get down to earth. Literally, India is making moves to boost its rubber production.
Oh, interesting.
They're launching 2 new initiatives,
What are they called?
ISNR and INR Connect.
Okay.
And these initiatives are actually quite timely,
Yeah.
considering we're also celebrating the Platinum Jubilee of the Rubber Act of 1947.
Wow.
The act that established the Rubber Board.
Right. The governing body for the rubber industry in India.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me, what exactly do these new initiatives aim to achieve?
Well, ISNR, it focuses on aligning Indian rubber production with global sustainability standards,
Okay.
particularly those set by the European Union. We're talking things like traceability certification, responsible sourcing, eco-friendly practices, the whole 9 yards.
Makes sense. I mean, sustainability is a hot topic these days,
Absolutely.
and for good reason. What about INR Connect then?
INR Connect. Well, it's all about fostering collaboration within the industry.
Okay.
It's a digital platform, connects rubber growers with potential investors and technology providers. It's all about knowledge sharing, creating a more interconnected and efficient rubber ecosystem.
And all this is especially important because India is the world's third largest producer of natural rubber, right?
You got it. But even with that ranking, the industry faces its challenges.
Yeah.
For example, there's a lot of untapped potential in the existing plantations.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the risks from climate change.
Right, of course.
And the need for, technological advancements.
So ISNR and INR Connect.
They address these challenges head on,
Okay.
promoting sustainable growth and modernization within the sector.
Sounds like these initiatives could really shake things up in a good way.
Yeah, they really could.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit here. From battling corruption to boosting connectivity and even diving deep into the world of rubber production.
It's been a busy one.
It has, but before we wrap up this segment, let's turn our focus to something a little more concerning,
Okay.
and one that's definitely relevant for your UPSC preparation.
Yeah.
The Yala Glacier in Nepal.
The only Himalayan glacier on the global glacier casualty list.
Exactly. It's shrinking at an alarming rate.
A stark reminder of the very real threat of climate change.
It's definitely unsettling,
Yeah.
but why should we care about a shrinking glacier in Nepal, of all places?
Melting glaciers,
Yeah.
they have far-reaching consequences.
Okay.
They disrupt entire ecosystems, lead to water scarcity in downstream areas,
Oh, wow.
and increase the risk of catastrophic events like glacial lake outburst floods.
Seriously?
Yeah, these are critical issues.
Wow.
They directly impact human populations and the environment,
Right.
and they are very much a part of the UPSC syllabus.
They are.
Oh, yeah. You'll find them intertwined with topics like climate change, disaster management, even international cooperation.
Okay, so this isn't just an environmental issue then.
No, not at all.
It's a multifaceted problem
Exactly.
with serious implications for society, the economy, even international relations.
Yeah, got it.
And it just underscores, the urgency of addressing climate change and finding sustainable solutions.
Absolutely.
That's a lot to unpack, but it's definitely important stuff for our listeners to be aware of.
It is.
We'll be back with more current affairs in just a moment, so stay tuned.
See you soon.
Welcome back, UPSC Warriors, ready for round 2 of our current affairs deep dive. We've got a lot to cover, from food security to groundbreaking science, all with a UPSC exam in mind.
And don't forget,
Oh, right, before we jump in,
hit that like button and subscribe if you're finding these deep dives helpful.
absolutely, we really appreciate your support. Okay, now let's get down to business. Remember that open market sales scheme, or OMSS, we talked about in part 1?
Yeah, the one for managing food grain prices.
Well, the government just announced some big changes, and it's causing quite a stir.
It's definitely making headlines.
So for those who need a refresher, what is the OMSS and what does it actually do?
Okay, so basically, the Food Corporation of India, the FCI, releases extra grains like wheat and rice from its central pool, into the open market.
Okay, I'm following.
This helps keep prices stable, especially when supply and demand are fluctuating.
Makes sense. So what's changed in this revised policy? What should our listeners be paying attention to?
Well, there are a couple of key changes that really stand out. First, the government has set a reserve price for rice, specifically for ethanol distilleries.
Interesting.
It's a lower price, you see, and it's meant to encourage ethanol production using rice. It's all part of the government's push for, more ethanol in petrol.
Ah, so they're trying to tackle 2 issues at once, addressing food security concerns while promoting renewable energy.
Exactly. It's a clever strategy. And the second big change is the introduction of a reserve price for rice sold to state governments, corporations, and those community kitchens.
Oh, I see.
They can buy rice at a fixed price now without going through those e-auctions.
Which can sometimes get pretty competitive and drive prices up, right?
Exactly. The goal here is to make sure there's a steady and affordable supply of rice for essential programs and those vulnerable populations.
That's really important, especially in a country as vast and diverse as India. Okay, let's switch gears for a moment and do a rapid-fire round of other noteworthy current events. Let's start with a historical commemoration.
Okay.
Recently, there were tributes paid to the martyrs of the Kuka movement.
The Kukas.
Yeah, this movement emerged in Punjab during the 19th century and played a big role in resisting British rule.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Well, the Kukas, followers of the Namdhari sect, were known for their strong religious beliefs and their opposition to British policies.
Okay.
They advocated for social reforms, boycotted British goods, and even engaged in armed rebellion.
It's a powerful example of the different ways people resisted during India's struggle for independence.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how these historical movements continue to inspire people even today. Now let's move on to a more contemporary celebration.
All right.
The National Sports Awards were presented recently, recognizing amazing achievements in all sorts of sporting disciplines.
Those are a big deal in India.
Right. They hold a lot of prestige. You have the Major Dhyan Khel Ratna Award, the highest sporting honor given for lifetime achievement.
Wow.
Then there's the Arjuna Award for outstanding performance in a particular year, the Dronacharya Award for exceptional coaches, and a bunch of others.
It's great to see athletic talent being recognized and celebrated on a national level.
For sure. Okay, hold on tight, because we're about to dive into some cutting-edge science.
Yeah.
Indian scientists have developed a groundbreaking neuromorphic device.
Neuromorphic.
Yeah, it's inspired by how our bodies sense and respond to pain.
That's fascinating. Tell me more.
So it's a huge leap in neuromorphic engineering, which focuses on creating electronic systems that mimic the human brain. This particular device is unique because it can imitate that process of habituation, where we get less sensitive to a repeated stimulus over time.
Like when you get used to a certain sound or smell, right?
Exactly. So are you telling me they created a device that can feel pain? That's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Well, not exactly feel pain like humans do, but it can replicate that desensitization process.
So what are the potential applications for something like this?
Think about it. Smarter prosthetic limbs that can adjust to different sensations, more intuitive human-machine interfaces, and even robots that can learn and adapt in a more human-like way.
It's mind-blowing. It makes you wonder how far science will go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift our focus to the global scene. The International Labor Organization, the ILO, released its World Employment and Social Outlook Report for 2025. Any key findings for our UPSC aspirants?
Yes, definitely. The report paints a bit of a mixed picture. The global economy is recovering from the pandemic, but unemployment is still a big concern.
I can see that.
The ILO points to several factors, including geopolitical tensions, those rising costs from climate change, and, those unresolved debt issues in a lot of countries.
It's a complex situation.
It is. It reminds us that achieving sustainable economic recovery isn't easy.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that what happens globally affects everyone, and understanding these dynamics is important for the UPSC exam. Now, let's turn our attention to South America.
Okay.
There's been a recent outbreak of violence in Colombia, with clashes between rival left-wing groups.
I heard about that. It's a sad situation.
It is, and it highlights the ongoing challenges Colombia faces, even after the peace agreement of 2016.
The one that aimed to end the decades-long conflict.
Exactly. The country has a long history of armed conflict involving guerrilla groups, paramilitaries, drug cartels, you name it.
It's a complex situation with deep-rooted issues.
For sure. And understanding this context is crucial for the UPSC exam. Now, for a more positive development, let's talk infrastructure.
Sounds good.
India's Renewable Energy Development Agency, IREDA, finalized a joint venture with Nepal for the Upper Karnali hydroelectric project.
That's great news. Hydropower has so much potential in that region.
It does, and this is a major step for both India and Nepal. The Upper Karnali project will be a run-of-river hydroelectric plant.
Run-of-river.
Yeah, it uses the natural flow of the river to generate electricity without needing a big dam.
So it's more environmentally friendly than traditional hydropower projects.
Exactly. And it's expected to significantly boost Nepal's power generation and provide clean energy to India, a win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. It's good to see this kind of cross-border collaboration. Now let's talk about something a little different, cultural preservation. The state of Tripura is undertaking a language mapping project to promote the Kokborok language.
Kokborok. That's an interesting name.
Right. It's the mother tongue of several tribal communities in Tripura and is one of the state's official languages. This project aims to document its usage, find out where it's thriving and develop strategies to support its growth.
That's fantastic. It's important to protect and celebrate India's linguistic diversity. Okay, shifting gears once again, we have some concerning news from the Baltic Sea.
What's that?
A recent study by the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, found that those explosions that damaged the Nord Stream pipeline in 2022.
The ones carrying natural gas from Russia to Germany.
Yes, those. They caused the biggest human-caused release of methane ever recorded.
Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas, much more so than carbon dioxide.
It is, and this incident shows the environmental impact of geopolitical conflicts.
The Nord Stream pipeline is a huge energy project with major geopolitical implications.
Right, and regardless of the cause of those explosions, they released a massive amount of methane into the atmosphere.
It's a complex situation with environmental, political, and economic factors all intertwined.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that environmental issues are rarely isolated. Now, let's end our rapid-fire round on a more positive note.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
The Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, recently unearthed some ancient Buddhist artifacts
Oh, wow. Where were they found?
at Ratnagiri in Odisha.
Ratnagiri. Isn't that one of the largest Buddhist monasteries in India?
It is. And the artifacts discovered, including a Buddha head and some inscribed relics, offer valuable insights into the history of Buddhism in India.
That's fascinating. It's incredible how these ancient objects can connect us to the past.
I know, right? Okay, folks, that was our whirlwind tour of current events. It's clear that staying informed is key for anyone preparing for the UPSC exam.
It's not just about memorizing facts, though.
What do you mean?
It's about understanding the connections, the causes, the consequences, the different perspectives. It's about building a deep understanding of the world around us.
Well said. We'll be back for the final part of this deep dive, where we'll wrap up everything and leave you with a thought-provoking question to ponder. So, stay with us.
Welcome back, everyone, for the final stretch of our UPSC Current Affairs deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, right? From the Lokpal's fight against corruption to that shrinking Yala glacier, we even touched on some seriously cool scientific stuff, like those neuromorphic devices.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, a whirlwind of info. But hopefully our listeners are seeing the links between these seemingly random events. After all, that's what the UPSC exam is all about, making those connections.
Exactly. So as we wrap things up, let's connect some dots. What are some of the big themes that stand out from our discussion?
One thing that keeps popping up is, well, the way domestic and global issues are all tangled up, like India trying to boost rubber production. Well, that's being shaped by global sustainability standards set by, the European Union.
Right, and the violence in Colombia. A domestic issue for sure, but it ripples outwards, especially when you think about, say, the drug trade and its global impact. Absolutely, it's all connected. And another thing we've seen, technology. It's becoming a key player in tackling all sorts of challenges, like connecting remote villages with broadband or developing those mind-blowing neuromorphic devices.
Yeah, technology is a force to be reckoned with, and understanding its potential and its limits is so crucial for those aspiring civil servants out there.
Couldn't agree more.
Another big takeaway? The way different sectors and issues are all intertwined. Like that revised open market sales scheme, it's not just about managing food prices, it's also about boosting renewable energy through ethanol production.
And the melting glaciers, that has implications for water resources, disaster management, even international relations. It's complex.
Absolutely, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
These complex interlinkages are at the heart of so many policy decisions. Recognizing them is key for good governance.
Totally.
All right, before we sign off, I have a thought-provoking question for our listeners. We talked about the Lokpal and its mission to fight corruption, but also about that high rate of complaints getting rejected because of formatting issues. Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
It is. So here's the question. If you were in charge of making the Lokpal more accessible and effective, what would you do? How can we make complaining easier, more user-friendly, and make sure those brave whistleblowers aren't discouraged by all the red tape?
It's a great question to ponder. Really makes you think about how to strengthen those institutions and promote good governance.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into current affairs for January 19th, 2025. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with your fellow UPSC warriors. Keep those minds sharp, stay curious, and we'll be back soon with another deep dive into the most important current events. Until then, happy studying.
Best of luck, everyone.